Welcome to the Fantasy Zone. Everyone loves Fantasy Zone, the Sega shoot 'em up where you go around a scrolling area from left to right and right to left, collect coins and get power-ups, and also travelling between zones with lots of colourful graphics. And indeed, it's part of a franchise. Fantasy Zone, there's Fantasy Zone 2 and Fantasy Zone The Maze. Areola Soft, on the Reactor label, liked Fantasy Zone so much they produced Out of This World, and we're starting off in the Amstrad CPC. This is a game I stumbled across on CPC Power the other week when I was just looking for games to review, and I thought, that looks and sounds familiar. It's a full-price game, released in late 1987. You probably came across it in the shops if you saw it in early 1988. Here we are on the Amstrad, and it's Fantasy Zone, isn't it? But that's not the first thing that strikes you here. Look at the width of the screen. Look at the width of the screen. Look at it. And we've got some fairly decent scrolling. It's not 50 frames a second, but it's fairly smooth. Although you can already spot there's a lot of slowing down when there's more on the screen. You shoot the baddies and guess what? They award you coins. But instead of going to a shop, you collect coins for different weapons. Unfortunately, on the Amstrad version, you don't know what any of them are because everything's taken up by this scrolling. When we come to the Spectrum and C64 versions, you'll get little icons along the bottom telling you what each coin contributes towards. When you've got enough coins for one weapon, you briefly have that as a power-up. Over to the Spectrum, and we're running some 48K Plus. And we need a coin value of 4 to get onto level 2. So on the 48K here, it's silent. Absolutely silent. And the reason I'm showing this, and I'm going to show quite a lot of the 48K, was because I thought the graphics might work with the shading better on the degraded composite output rather than RGB, where it all looks a bit ugly. Sadly, that didn't turn out to be the case. Over to the 64. Sound and music on the C64 and Amstrad by Binary Design, Jazz C. Brook, a name you'll know from many Binary Design games. On the 64 we have this lovely 50 frames a second scrolling, which is what the CPC is trying to do, but failing, although it is a kind of hardware hack on the CPC they've done. It's not an official screen mode there. Really nice soundtrack. Zap gave the game just 55%. Not as bad as the Spectrum version, which Crash gave 33% to, and YS gave it 5 out of 10. Amstrad Action quite like the CPC version though. You do die a lot, but if you look down the bottom there, oh, I can hear a noise, that means my end of level thing's there. I need to get onto that. And now we're going to a bonus level, but there's icons down the bottom in the normal level. And yeah, this is like, again, Fantasy Zone, travelling between the levels. You have to survive your way. I do have a cheat active because these between level sequences are really, really hard. Back on CPC, where there's no icons at the bottom telling you what the coins you've collected are. But I do have this natty 3-way power-up. Unfortunately, though, you can only you can't continuously press fire because if you press fire again, your little bullets disappear, making it rather annoying if you've got bandits coming from both directions, because you press fire again and the bullets from, say, behind you suddenly vanish. I don't know what those baddies are. They look like pills. But this is some clever CRTC stuff going on here. Sometimes you can see a slight frame roll when it cuts back to the normal screen mode. And that's going to take me to the bonus level on the CPC. And I died very quickly because it's incredibly hard. I mean, you saw how much warning I got there, right? It's a bonus level. You shouldn't be able to die on a bonus level. It's about getting bonuses, right? Back on the Specky. And there we go. That's our portal. And it's a bit more manageable on the Spectrum. Usually the Spectrum version is faster and the Amstrad CPC version will be slower, but no. The Specky version is plodding along here, and the bonus level is perfectly manageable, unlike the CPC version. It kind of has the feel of a budget game, because there's not an awful lot to it. It's a cut-down fantasy zone. But as you'll see as we go on to the later levels, it's basically you get a level, and then a bonus level, and a level, and no big end of level baddies, nothing like that. It feels like the kind of thing you could put it on budget and go, this is good fun for $2.99. But obviously, as you can see from reviews in Crash and Zap, not impressed at all at the 9 or 10 quid, depending on which format you had, price tag. And this bonus level goes on and on and on. We're on to level 2. And a big problem on the Specky is things getting lost in the background. You can see a pill floating around there that goes down there. I just managed to pick it up, but it gets lost in these very, very busy backgrounds. Of course, everything's just 2 colours. Over to the Amstrad, where things are definitely not just 2 colours. It is every colour, and you took a still of this, then this is kind of like Amstrad CPC, isn't it? Lots of lovely colours, lots of contrast, looking really nice RGB goodness. And it looks gorgeous, it really does. It is, however, insanely unfair at times. It is the case that you do get lost against these rather busy backgrounds. And it is the case that there was a major... You can see there, lots of sprites on screen, all of a sudden everything's slowed down, the background's slowed down. As soon as everything goes, it really speeds up again. Back to the 64. I mean, this is the kind of game the C64 can do in its sleep. Pick some coins up there, and you can see how much I've got of each coin down the bottom, although you don't really understand what each of those icons actually does. 71's presumably a speed up, there's a laser thing, extra life at the end there. But again, all the coins are different colours, but the icons down the bottom are all the same colour. So what are you collecting them for? Why not just have a shop? Why break? If you're going to copy Fantasy Zone, just copy it. Don't just break it. I've got a power up. That's the 3-way power up. Like, the 3 circles is the 3-way power up that works better than the CPC version because I can keep on pressing fire and it's fine. So there's a coin there. What's that coin? Didn't manage to pick it up. Green coin, that did something, don't know what. And when you've activated the power up, the bar goes down. So there we go, it's run out and I'm back on normal bullets. And the collision detection is spot on, so spot on, it's rather unforgiving. Because it's very easy to get hit by the baddies because your bullets have just whizzed past. Level 3 on the CPC. And you can see the slowdown and just as those strawberries go off the screen and come back again. This level feels rather lazy just with the baddie layouts going left to right, left to right, left to right. It suddenly feels like a much more basic game. Back on the 64 that looks far less colourful. And there we go, that's a kind of wave laser thing. My bar chart's running out, that's the end of level there. Level 5 on the Specky, which is neither smooth, fast nor colourful. Yeah, I take it back on terms of $2.99 game. This feels more like a $1.99 game from someone like Players, one of the second-tier budget houses. Specky doesn't need to be this slow. It seems rather peculiar, doesn't it? This is the kind of speed you expect the CPC to be going at if it had a full kind of colourful, chunky thing going on. But no, we've got the CPC relatively smooth. And now I can't tell the difference. Are they coins? Are they bullets? Should I be picking them up? Probably not. Yeah, there's some things that look like coins that aren't on this level. No, the more I play this on the Specky, it just feels like a lame imitation of the other two versions. And the other two versions don't exactly have... Yeah, that wasn't a coin. The other two versions don't exactly have a lot going for it. Back on the Amstrad. And look at this level. This is like in all the Amstrad colours at once. It's like a CPC 464 keyboard brought to life in game form. Massive speed up while there's no baddies on the screen. And those baddies are getting lost against the background now because they're just too similar in colour. It's like someone's gone, yeah, let's lose all the colours. And it looks lovely, but it just... It's too busy. It's everything. It's everything at once. And of course, what's stopping us having a status display is all this fancy scrolling, I guess. But the poor old CPC is still not up to it because of you can see the slowdown. I'll get people arguing in the comments about hardware scrolling. Yes, yes, it is. It's the CRTC doing it, but it's look, this is hardware scrolling. See, the computer isn't slowing down. It's like putting turbo badges on diesels. Yes, they're turbos, but they're not what we thought turbos were in the 80s, eh? See, it is lovely. But you don't even get a score. Because everything's being thrown at just doing this wonderful wide display and keeping everything moving. It's almost like a tech demo, really. We've seen it done far better since as well. Level 6 on the C64. Sorry to give it bright, this is my C64C. As my bread bin has blown up. Well, it won't turn on. If you remember about a time I did the C64 mini video, I went and bought a proper bread bin and have been using it ever since, but currently my bread bin is out of action. And it's going off for repair soon as it's New Year's Eve today, and it's going to go off for repair as soon as COVID has calmed down because I need to drive it somewhere. Here's a good power-up, 4-way shooting. That's a useful one to have. Of course, it's going to run out incredibly quickly. I think it's level 7 on CPC, and it's just like that earlier level with the strawberries but with different colours. It kind of feels like the programmers couldn't be bothered at this stage, so we're just going to repeat that earlier level with a different background. So, do we have Fantasy Zone on our Amstrad Spectrums and Commodores via Out of This World? The answer is kind of. Problem is, all the bits that make Fantasy Zone really special are missing. Mainly the shop. The CPC is technically impressive, but that slowdown and speeding up is seriously irritating, and the fact you cannot see what the power-ups are or even what your score is kind of game-breaking, and it feels like you're playing a technical demo of a game that isn't quite finished yet. Still, kudos for doing something really interesting with the CRTC chip with that widescreen mode and all that scrolling. It's nice to see someone actually trying on the CPC, because this game could so easily have been like the abysmal Spectrum version, all in monochrome, jerking along with a standard size screen. C64 version, well, it's got all the hardware really, so it didn't take any coding talent to get the sprites and screen moving around at that speed. And once you take that into account, I kind of agree with Zap. 55% might sound harsh, but this is a full price game. And if it was out on budget, you'd be going, wow, $1.99 or $2.99 a Fantasy Zone clone. Yeah, it's missing a load of stuff, but this is so cool. But of course it isn't. It's a 10 quid game. It looks attractive enough, and the music is really good on the C64 and the CPC, but all that polish doesn't take away from the fact there is just nothing here. A terrible shame really, because this could have been so good, and if it had been on budget, well, I would have been more generous. But a full price game in this state, and in this day and age when you can just go and play Fantasy Zone, yeah, no thanks.